Welcome back, everybody. It's Forktail Devil here. Day 2 of this dirt tracker project. Pretty much fairly content with how we got it shaped yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and start by wrapping the foam with just some masking tape, and then I'll use some of this foil tape here to cover up the seat here. And maybe parts of it. It just depends on how it contours. But I need to pop this board back out of the fiberglass when I'm done. So this foil helps keeping it from clinging too much. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this guy here. And if you're just using what I'm using, and I'll get it out here in a minute, but I'm just using the Bondo brand resin. And if you use that stuff, it's a lot, you know, it's pretty straightforward and easy to use, but you can't put it directly on this foam here. Some people like myself learn that lesson the hard way, but it will melt the foam here and ruin all your hard work. So if you cover it with tape, it holds up just fine. So I want to try to make this thing as smooth as possible. You know, when you're doing the shaping, you want to try to spend as much time just trying to get it as symmetrical and as shaped as possible, because, well, obviously the foam's a hell of a lot easier to shape than the glass and the filler are going to be if we need to go back and make any changes. So. Or fix some lopsidedness. Anyhow, of course, when you're dealing with a chunk of raw foam, you know, out here in the sun, the thing was so blinding yesterday, it was hard to even look at it. But you know, it just all looks the same. So you do get to a point where you just kind of run out of patience on the whole shaping it thing. Just try to be disciplined and hold that as long as possible and tweak it as long as possible, because you're really going to save yourself hours down the road here. Hopefully this thing looks decent when I get the glass laid down. I've spent hours fixing 15-minute screw up. I want to try to get this stuff as smooth as possible. Not super happy with this front area here, so I imagine this is going to be an area where I'll have to do a little bit of filler work. In the end, though, you can't kill yourself over small things. You just got to keep moving. So, alright, so we've moved to a shadier part of the yard here. It's getting hard on the eyes anyways, and the hotter it is, the less work time you have with the resin here. So, yeah, it's a lot more pleasant on this side of the yard. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting the fiberglass out, marking it here with a Sharpie, and then cutting it into pieces and making sure that it's, you know, we want to try to make the actual process that we're going to go through with putting the resin down. This Sharpie is done. Make that as smooth as possible, or as quick as possible. Have all this other prep work done, because we're going to have to work quickly with the resin to keep it from hardening before we even finish. Now there's two different styles. You've got the matte here, which I'm not using right at this second. It's like this here. You can see it goes in every different direction. And then we have the cloth. Yeah, they call it the cloth, where it's actually more uniform. It's a little the cloth is a little thinner weight. You can get in different thickness densities, but in these little packets you just have the two options: the cloth or the matte. So in this instance, the cloth is thinner than the matte, so it's going to use less resin, which is a double-edged sword. We're going to go ahead and do 2 layers of this stuff here for the first one, because one layer of it can be pretty flimsy and it can distort as this thing cures with heat. Not while it's on the mold, but when we pull it off. I've had before, if I just do 1 layer, pull it off the mold, and then go back and put a few layers on, that 1 layer is so flimsy that the heat generated in the curing process of the next couple layers will distort it. So we're going to go ahead and get 2 layers on here before we pull it off the mold. Then we can make any adjustments we need to as far as smoothing it out. Maybe filling in some spots, I suspect, right here to change the shape a little bit, shaping them and getting it all really smooth at that point. And then I'll go ahead and add some extra layers, and we should be good from there. So I think 4 layers or so here, with some heavier spots in different stress areas, should be plenty thick enough here. I mean, we're going to be sitting on the frame directly underneath it anyway, so it should be fine. We need to go ahead and start chopping this. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and, we've already prepped the fiberglass cloth. They send us a little tray, but you only use it once, so we're going to be using these disposable cups instead. They send 2 tubes of hardener. You have to have a little needle to poke a hole in the end of them, and then you just add about 10 drops per ounce. I've already taken 1 cup and put graduations on it for what the ounces are, and then I can just measure the other ones here. So I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to go ahead and set us up with 4 ounces. I'm going to mark 2 of them. I don't mix up too much at a time because it starts to harden up pretty quickly. So, like I said, let's go ahead and that's 4 ounces there, give or take. So we'll just fill it up to there and put about 40 drops in it. Again, I'm just using the off-the-shelf Bondo stuff. You can see that it's not the greatest resin. It already comes out a little cloudy and thick. And it should be, when it's fresh, good quality stuff, it comes out a little, pretty thin, almost like water consistency. So like I said, 4 ounces here. We're just going to go ahead and give 10 drops per ounce. So once you get it mixed up thoroughly, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside for me using this many more times. Got it positioned about where we want it. We're just going to go ahead and start laying it down. So I'm just going to pour some on top here, because right now there's nothing down, so it's going to soak up a fair amount here. and then it's going to start sticking down to what's underneath there. So you're just going to try to, try not to pull on it too much when you're brushing it, because you're really trying to get it to lay down flat and consistent everywhere. Later we won't be pouring it at all. So you're going to be doing a lot of this right here, patting it here. I'm going to go ahead and get any bottom layers, if you got layers going at all, get the bottom layers completely saturated before you start laying stuff down on top, where it's not going to make it all the way down through it. You want to try to work fairly quickly here without being sloppy. It's hard to find that sweet spot between being thorough and being quick here. So, but once it starts gelling up here, it becomes pretty darn useless. So again, just try to be thorough, but try to work quickly at the same time. And you're going to have air bubbles here, or you're going to try to, you have to work out any of these air bubbles here. You can see them through there, so just kind of poke, keep patting it and patting it. Once you get it wet, it actually conforms pretty decently here, even though we didn't lay anything down underneath, so I'm kind of liking that. So we're pretty much there. You want to go, I got all three sections down with both layers there, two first layers there. They should harden up pretty quickly with each other. We want to go ahead and make sure to kind of smooth out any bumpy spots. Make sure to pat down all the corners, make sure it's pulled tight in all the corners here. Same with the edges, go back over all the edges, probably a couple times. We're going to end up coming through here and trimming all this off later. But right now we need to make sure that it's all shaping good. It's so hard to tell if it's symmetrical right now, but we'll find out. We'll find out here shortly, that's for sure. So I'm just going to go around all the way around the corners here, patting it down, make sure it's sticking good on the corners there, the edges. You're going to have some stragglers, not much you can do about that. You're going to go back and smooth it out later, so not the end of the world there. The edges are all looking pretty good. I don't see any air bubbles. Definitely a little lumpy at the moment, but we'll get that smoothed out. So we'll come back in a while and check it out. Alright, so I've got this thing pulled off here. Something interesting I've noticed. And I knew I saw some, gosh, that's so aggravating. I knew I saw some lines with the tape. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but the foam underneath here kind of deteriorated. I don't know if it's I don't think it's from heat, because I've not had this issue before. I think it's just because I did one layer of that masking tape. It's pretty disappointing. These areas where I have more layers of masking tape look fine. Anyhow, it's not the end of the world. It just means more filler, which is a little bit aggravating, but there's always some speed bumps in these projects, so that's to be expected, I guess. Anyhow, that's what it looks like.